8:23 right now, and Russia is set to add more territory to its borders this week.
British intelligence says Russian President Vladimir Putin plans to annex eastern regions in Ukraine this week.
And he may be willing to use nuclear weapons to defend those territories. North Central College political science professor Stephen Caliendo is with us this morning. I appreciate your time. Let's get into this. Most of the West says the referendums going on in Russian-controlled areas of Ukraine are a sham. So what happens when Russia formally claims those lands?
So much of this is a PR campaign, as you know, from Putin. He's not that interested in placating the West, but certainly he wants to maintain a level of support within Russia and within Russia's allies. And so, all the reports that are coming out from these referendums suggest that they're not legitimate. That's no surprise, and that there was an intention to annex these four areas for all along, and that was a part of the military strategy. So I think what we're seeing here is pretty predictable.
So Putin has alluded that he's willing to use nuclear weapons against anyone that he thinks presents a threat. Okay, that is scary to hear. It's been frightening enough to hear about what's been going on with that nuclear power plant. But if he decides to use these nuclear weapons for any reason, what happens then? Is that when the U.S. and NATO step in even more?
I would expect so, yes. I don't know that they would step in necessarily in kind, that there would be a use of nuclear weapons as a response, but certainly there would be it would be easy to congeal Western opposition to such a move. Because we haven't had that kind of activity. I mean, I think, when I was a kid, I remember being under my desk, during the Cold War and wondering how that desk was going to protect me from a nuclear weapon. But we've had, for the last 40 years, we haven't been doing those types of things. We haven't been thinking about that. But I think as it becomes more real, then it becomes incumbent upon the nations in NATO, not NATO as an organization, of course, but the allies in NATO to have some military action to prevent that from happening again. So I don't know. I mean, Putin's increasingly desperate. And that's dangerous.
Yeah, a lot of people have described him as a man with his back up against the wall. We know thousands of Russians are trying to flee the country after Putin started drafting people into the army. What do you think the average Russian thinks about all of this?
You're right, and that's really the problem here is that we if Putin loses support at home, one of the reasons that you have patriotism, that you have even when it rises to the level of nationalism, is to believe that your country is right and you're willing to die for it. You have to have a group of people that are willing at any moment for what they perceive to be a good cause to die for their country, and you have to have family members that support that and think that that's okay. If that erodes, if we see, I don't know if this is going to be a mass exodus, but if people start to leave, if people start to believe that their obligation to country isn't great enough, then it's going to be impossible for Putin to continue with the ground war because he's not going to have enough people to do it. And so that's something we need to keep our eye on for sure.
North Central College political science professor Stephen Caliendo, thanks for breaking it down for us this morning.
It's great to see you this morning.
You too.
Good to
Thank
see you
you
too.